Alrighty, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Can you hear me? Am I loud enough right now? Oh, maybe not. That's probably why. All right, just had to turn it up on the mixer. All right, this is, what is the date today? October 21st, Tuesday, October 21st. This is episode 2 of, right now, we're calling it the Volleyball Source Weekly Podcast. My name is Everett DeLorme, and we're here to talk about some volleyball. We are now in full swing in the pro volleyball season as the men's season has started. The women's season is fully underway. We've got a lot to talk about this week. I honestly don't even know if I'm going to be able to get through all of it. It has been a big week of volleyball. I'm still catching up. I was away all weekend in Calgary. I went to go see the ballet in Calgary. Shout out to Alyssa, who premiered her first ballet for the Alberta Ballet. I'm multifaceted, guys, okay? I won't be doing a ballet show or a dance show anytime soon, but I do watch a lot of dance. And then I went to Banff. Saw my brother for the first time in 4 years. It was a nice little weekend. But it did mean that I spent basically all day yesterday and all day today catching up on everything that was going on in the volleyball world. Of course, we had a full slate of men's Lega volley yesterday. The PlusLiga started yesterday with matches yesterday and today. We had the Super Copa in Italy that we'll talk about in just a second. On the women's side, we had the Super Cup in Turkey today that was going down as well. So there's so much volleyball to talk about from this past weekend. But before we get that, this show needs a name. I thought Volleyball Source Weekly would be good, but I don't know. I'm just not feeling it. Someone suggested the Volleyball Journal last week. I was kind of into that. I kind of like that suggestion, but I do have kind of 4 of my favorite suggestions in the chat. So those of you who are watching live, it's just a good incentive for people to watch live. I think the 4 that I picked are the Volleyball Journal, Over the Top. One of the favorites in the Discord is Crossing the Line with Everett DeLorme. I do think that is a pretty apropos. And then the court report. So once again, would love to hear your thoughts. Would love to see what you guys think. At the end of the day, it will be my choice. But I also value you guys' opinion, and I really do. So hope you guys are all having a fantastic start to the week. I know I am. It's been pretty good. Been hanging out in the Discord a lot, and it's been a lot of fun. But that's enough talking about me, because we definitely need to talk about everything that's been going on this week. And first and foremost, we have to talk about what happened in Italy this weekend. Conegliano, for the first time since 2019, have lost an Italian trophy. That is right. For the first time in 6 years, Conegliano has not lifted an Italian trophy. Instead, it is Milano who take home the Super Copa 2025. And man, what a match. Absolutely what a match. It is the first time in 17 matches. Conegliano had won 16 straight matches against Monza or Milano, depending on how you want to call it. Malonza, as we call them over here, going all the way back to May 11th. Of 2023 here that we saw last year. And yeah, it was an absolutely crazy match. As you see here, this is the last time that Conegliano lost an Italian trophy, which was 2019 when they lost to Novara in the Italian Cup. And it was an absolutely nuts match. It was the battle of the two best, or maybe the two best opposites in the world, between Isabel Haak and Paolo Egonu. Haak finished the match with an unreal stat line, 30 for 56. She had a 54% with a 48% efficiency. She was just unreal. 1 block, 1 ace. Did have 6 serving errors, but can't really fault her for that when she's absolutely carrying her team. Egonu, on the other hand, 30 points, 28 for 59. She hit a 47% with a little lower efficiency at 35%. 1 block, 1 ace. Only 1 serving error. And I mean, I think serving was one of her big parts in this match, especially in that second set, really turning things around. And watching this match, I watched it today, watched it back because I didn't have the chance to be able to watch it on Saturday live. It was really funny just to kind of, after the match, after it was done, because I was hiking on Saturday in Banff, and it was really funny just to go through the Discord chat, mostly because, after Conegliano wins that fourth set, everyone is just like, oh, here they go. Conegliano's going to win the fifth. Bye-bye, Milano. And instead, it was a completely different story in that fifth set. But really, to me, surprisingly, this match came down to Conegliano lacking secondary scoring. Conegliano not having anyone on the left side, really. And we'll talk about that for a second, because in the first set, Haka was the absolute best player on the court. Conegliano just dominated right from the beginning in this first set. They took the first set 25-18. Hawk was 10 for 12 in the first. And the left side woes really started for Milano early. And that's what I thought the story of the game was going to be, right? For a set and a half, it's that Milano can't score on the left side, and that Isabel Hawk was an absolute dominant player. She was, as I said, 10 for 12 in the first, and Malonza started with Piva, and she was not good in the first. She went 1 for 5 with a minus 28% efficiency, which is why in set number 2, Lavarini opted to go with Leanna Pietrini. And then they brought in Pietrini, who was even worse. She was 0 for 4 with a minus 75 efficiency. She had 1 error and was blocked twice. And that's what I thought this game was going to come down to. I mean, Milano has been so up and down this year. They've already lost a match to Chieri in regular season, and it just didn't look like they were getting things going. Now, there was 2 things that happened in the second set that changed the entire course of the match, and to be honest, may change the entire course of this season early on, too. The first and foremost is that Lavarini went back to the bench in place of Pietrini, and instead of going for Rebecca Piva, like we all thought he was going to, instead he brought in Emma Cagnin. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that one properly. And she came in and immediately made a difference, immediately went 3 for 3 in attacking. And it just brought a different level and a different confidence to Milano. And then the other thing that happened is that Agonu went back to serve when they were down 16. Well, they were originally down 16-11. They got the side out. Agonu goes back to serve at 16-12 and absolutely takes over the match from the baseline, runs them from down 16-12 to up 17-16. And it was just a massive changing run for Milano that really gave them a lot of motivation and completely changed the course of this match. I thought that, especially with Cunning coming in, Bosio finally had the ability to spread out that offense just a little bit. She had the ability to kind of give it everyone, and she was really, really good in that fourth set, both in her setting. At least 4 of their attackers had 2 kills. Krtojic was fantastic with 2 blocks, and I mean, she led the match in blocks with 5 throughout the result. But Bosio had 4 points in that second set. She had 2 kills, a block, and an ace. And then the way she ran that offense really just turned the tide. And on the other side of the net, the really big surprising thing, and one of the storylines for this early on in the season, is that 2 of the best in the world have been struggling with a capital S. Zhu Ting was really, really bad in this one. She was 4 for 13 in the first with a 23% efficiency, and it all went down from there. 1 for 8 in the second, minus 25% efficiency, and then 0 for 4 in the third before she got pulled out. They did bring her back in at the end of the fourth, early into the fifth. I was really questioning why Santarelli was doing that, to be perfectly honest, because on the other side of the net, like, it was all Milano. They were passing well. Kalia Lanier was unreal. I thought she was super solid in this match. She did make 6 unforced errors, but a few of them were, tough out of system balls that she was trying to fix and really wasn't able to. And especially early on in that third set, she made 2 errors and then really turned things around. It was really special to watch. But look at those passing numbers down there for Kalia Lanier. On 25 or 28 targets, she was passing 75% positive, 54% perfect, just really nailing it down. The passing for Milano was unreal in this one. Kanin, same thing. On 31 targets, they really started going after her when she was subbed in on the second set. 58% positive, 26% perfect. And then Eleonora Forcino, who I wish we had dig stats because she was unreal. The amount of time she was strapping it on and digging, Gabi and Zhu, and specifically Hawk was incredible. Look at those passing stats on 18 targets, 94% positive. She did get ace that one time, and that was it. Right? That's it. That's the one negative for pass. Everything was in front of the attack line. Also 50% perfect. When half of your balls are perfectly on the head of your setter, and that's exactly why Bosio had everything to go at. Absolutely everything to go at. And it was just complete domination by Paola Egonu in that third set. She was 18 for 14 with a 57% efficiency, no errors, also got a block. Now, it did start changing a little bit in the fourth, and the big reason why is because Santarelli once again went to the bench and brought in Fatoumata Sylla. And Sylla, I think, honestly, I think we're getting a point to where she needs to be a starter. Right? I really do. She was incredible coming off the bench for this team. Ultimately was 10 for 20. Other than, of the outs of the left sides they had in this game, she was hands down the best offensively. She was an absolute baller. Some of the cross-court shots that she was making were incredible. And so there's 2 things that happened for Conegliano in that fourth set. Sylla was absolutely unreal. She really shored down the offense, and then their blocking really turned on. Conegliano got 4 of their 7 blocks in that fourth set, and they really just started the train going early. And I really liked how Lavarini went to the bench, took out all of his starters, didn't brought them all back for the fifth, but let them take a breather, let them got some time on the bench. And it was a real big game changer because when they came back out for the fifth, it was a different story. It was back to the Milano that we had seen through sets 2 and 3, right? They were so good. I mean, I'm going to show you the fifth set stat sheet here on the screen. And if you look down here at Paola Egonu, 10 for 15 on offense, right? She scored more points in the fifth set than Conegliano did altogether. And to me, I don't really know why Santarelli went away from Fatoumata Sylla. She got her first kill of that first set. And now in the fourth, they actually, I did make a mistake. They did bring her in the third for Zhu Ting. And we'll talk about her in a second, but Sylla was unreal. And then to start the fourth, it was Zhu and Sylla on the court. They were decent together. You know, Sylla was really good, and Zhu had her best set of the match. She was 3 for 6, actually in set number 4, when Conegliano was just absolutely rolling. But there was one rotation, not even one rotation, one play where, I mean, Sylla took a swing down the line and got dug. Ball came back over, and she got a bad set to the inside that she pushed down the line that Santarelli was clearly not happy with, and pulled her out immediately to go back to Zhu Ting, who was 1 for 7, as I said. Or was they went back to Gabi in that fourth set or fifth set, because they started Nika Dalderop as well. And I really just didn't understand that at all, right? Sylla was 1 for 3 in the fifth. Zhu ended up being 1 for 7. And it was really clear to me that, you know, as I said at the beginning of this talk about this match, is that Conegliano really was missing that secondary scoring. They were really missing just someone else to put the ball away consistently. And you'll see that in the points. I mean, Sylla, in a little over a set's work. Like, she came in at the end of the third, got taken out early in the first, had 11 points. She was the second highest scorer in the game. And then Zhu, who was an overall 9 for 37, with a really low efficiency, was the second best scorer with 10. Gabi, nowhere to be found. She was good in the early in the second set, and then really just fell away. 8 for 21 overall, and both Zhu and Gabi were doing fantastic passing wise. But it doesn't matter if you're going to be passing that well if you can't get the points on the board. And it was, Dado in the chat is saying Egonu aura, and that's exactly what it was. And to me, Egonu was an all-encompassing leader in this match. It was really interesting to watch. Once she went on that serving run in the second set, her aura changed. She started, talking to her athletes or her teammates. She started playing defense, and it was a different Paola Egonu, and it was like a game time Paola Egonu. And, that's exactly what we saw. That's exactly why she was the MVP. 30 points in this one. She was ridiculous, but it was a really, really nice win for Milano. And once again, the first time in 17 matches that they had defeated Conegliano, going back to May 11th of 2023. And yeah, it was really special to watch. It was a really, really good match. Milano came out completely different, with a completely different energy in that fifth set, and it was really impressive overall. They were really, really good. As I mentioned, Kalia Lanier was fantastic. I thought she was super solid for this team. She made errors early in the set and then was clutch when they needed her to be later on the set. Milano also dominated at the net, 11 blocks overall. I wish we had touches, because that's one of the ways that they were really slowing things down for Conegliano. Zhu, especially out of system, was having a hard time, and she was just resorting to just tipping that ball over the block, over the middle blockers into high three, and it was just a consistent dig from Milano, and they were able to transition it really well, especially when you have Paola Egonu out there, and then you have Lanier and Kanin attacking the way that they were. It was a different Milano team than from what I saw last weekend when they lost to Chieri. And it really, coming into this match, I was already a little sus on Conegliano, right? This season, sure, they've been undefeated, but they were real shaky against Busto, went down 0-2 before pulling off that reverse sweep. And the same thing against Cuneo in their second match. It was just, it's not the dominant Conegliano. It's not the number one team in the world, the best team in the world, the best run team in the world that we've been expecting from them. And was really interesting to watch in this one, because they just didn't seem to have any answers. In past years, especially last year with what was pretty much the same roster, even if there was so many times, I think they won 70% of their matches in 3 last year. I can't quite remember the number, but if ever they seem to get in any trouble, they seem to be able to turn things around and get themselves out of it really, really quickly. And that just hasn't been the case this year. This is the second time we've seen Silla come in. She was outstanding in one set of play against Conegliano, and I really think that Fatoumata Silla has to be starting on this roster soon. I really believe in Gabi. I think Gabi, just had a long year. It's been a bit of a ride, and but I really think that Fatoumata Silla is going to end up starting over Zhu Ting. And if you're Santarelli, you have to start questioning and seeing if you can use Nika Dalderop maybe a little bit more. I know she started the match on Wednesday as well too, but still, this was I'm not going to say it's super surprising because of how Conegliano has looked human this year. They haven't looked completely dominant, but at the same time, this is a Milano team that has lost a match already this season. This is a Milano team that has had a lot of question marks around them with so many players leaving. And I think that this match has really given them a lot of confidence, right? They've put the rest of the team on notice And sorry, not the rest of the team. They've put the rest of the league and the rest of the world on notice to say, hey, we're here. And now I don't think Milano is necessarily going to go on a run and be undefeated after this. Milano has a very, very high ceiling. And of course, any team with Paolo Gonu is going to have that. But also, they have a really low floor. Like, this is a team that when they're bad can be pretty bad. But in this one, it was outstanding. And it's not often that I question Santarelli's decisions. And this was a match where I was absolutely questioning Santarelli's decisions, especially in that fifth set when he took out Silla for Zhu. And to me, it was clear that she did something that was not in the game plan. You know, to me, it was clear that it was like, hey, in this type of situation, in an inside, out of system ball, this is what I want you to go with. And instead, she kind of pushed it long. But for all of the upside that she was bringing to the court, it seems ridiculous that you would go back to Zhu Ting, who was kind of awful, kind of really bad. And I know June is going to listen to this at some point and probably going to give me the cold treatment over the next little bit in the Discord. That's fine. But I don't know if Zhu should be the starter right now. Actually, I really don't. I really don't think that Zhu should be the starter right now. And especially when you have Nika Dalderop, who started the season so well for Milano last year. I know she kind of petered off a little bit, didn't play that much this year in the national team season. And Fatoumata Silla, who is one of the most dynamic and explosive left side players that we have, right? If you can have Gabi and Silla out there with Moki as libero, whoo, right? Gabi and Moki can take most of the court. They can, you know, because teams are going to be going after Silla, but she is dynamic and she hits that ball hard. And I think actually that's one of the important things to note here is that if you haven't noticed this year in the Lega Volley Femminile, they've actually changed back to the Molten ball. Actually, I don't know if it's back. I know that the men played with the Molten for quite a while. And this year, the Lega Volley Femminile has gone from playing with the Mikasa to the Molten. And that's a big move. That really is a big move. The Molten is slightly heavier. It responds better to a heavy swing. You know, that's why some of the men love playing with it, because it really, like, you have to hit it hard. Whereas the Mikasa, you didn't necessarily have to hit it as hard. It doesn't bounce as well, but if you hit it true, if you're a really good skill player, you have that ability to really carve and play with that ball, right? Really high skill level teams, which is what Conegliano is, have the ability to be a little bit better. So I think that the change in the ball has really hurt this Conegliano team. Like, once again, I don't know if you'd ever really expect to see this stat line, right? A combined 17 for 58 for Gabi and Zhu, who are widely considered as the best left side pair in the women's game right now, and maybe of all time, right? You're talking about two players who are 100% all-stars. And yeah, I think that this ball has had an effect. And now I know I've seen some people in the Discord complaining about it, and that's just the way it is, right? In soccer, football, sorry to all my Europeans, it's really normal for every different league to play with a different ball. Now, in volleyball, you don't have these massive conglomerates like Nike and Puma and Adidas and whatever else who are going to be vying for these competitions. You really only have two balls. I know, like in the Netherlands, like in the Dutch league, you play with both the Mikasa and the Gala, and it really depends on where you are. But let's be honest, the Mikasa, considering how long they've been the FIVB ball, are known as the volleyball, right? But I don't think the Molten is a lesser ball at all. I actually kind of like the Molten a little bit better. I like the way it feels as a setter. I like the way it comes off my hand when I'm hitting down balls, because, you know, I was never good enough. Back when I played, we used legitimately leather balls, okay? But that's also why I think that Milano maybe has a little bit better opportunity with you've got heavy swingers like Clea Lanier, who's used to playing with a Molten ball in the NCAA, and Emma Canyon as well. But overall, this just, I mean, when I did my Lega Volley Femminile preview with Tommy Blizzard just a few weeks ago, I opened with the question is, can anyone beat Conegliano? And it was no. Like, and we immediately laughed about it, because that we just didn't think it was possible. But here we are losing to Milano. And if you've listened to me at all this year talking about the LVF, I don't even think Milano's the second best team, right? So I guess it's going to make things very, very interesting from now on. Yeah, and it's going to be fun to watch. Now, we're just going to stay in Italy with the women from now on and just continue and just go over because we've actually had 2 match days since the last show. There was a match day on Wednesday, and then there was a match day, of course, on Sunday as well. And now Conegliano and Milano are actually slated to play in match day 4. And I believe they're going to be replaying that one on November 5th. So November 5th, they're going to be replaying the match from this match on that they missed for the Super Copa. But going back to match day 3, there was a few results that I want to talk about. Most specifically, one of the most surprising ones so far of this year, as Novara is really the only undefeated this team. Conegliano is as well, technically, in the regular season, but they did just lose to Milano, as Scandicci getting 3-donged by Cuneo. Cuneo Grandavali goes in to Scandicci. I'm pretty sure it was in Scandicci, and absolutely handles one of the best teams in the world. And you'll see why down here if you're watching live on YouTube, or if you're watching the video on YouTube. 3 of the Cuneo scorers in double digits, led by Erica Pritchard. Pritchard 13 for 27 in this one with 6 blocks. Cuneo had 14 blocks as a team. They did 2 things really, really well. They blocked the shit out of the ball. They outblocked Scandicci in this match 14-4. Pritchard had 6. Cecconello in the middle had 5, and then they also only made 2 unforced errors, right? So altogether, they only made altogether with errors and blocks, they made 6 unforced errors. Where on the other side for Scandicci, they had 8 unforced errors while also getting blocked 14 times in this match. And, Antropova was as we expected, but that secondary scoring, once again, that left side scoring for Scandicci, really struggling. Couldn't find, Avery Skinner was all right. She was 9 for 20, which is I'm going to take that from Skinner. I'd like it to be maybe a little bit higher, but so much volume. So much volume given to Antropova in this one. She was 14 for 39. Right, 40% of the offense is going to Antropova in this one, and she had 3 unforced errors, was blocked 6 times, as Pritchard was just wrapping her on the left side. They started with Sarah Franklin on the left side, did Scandicci. She was 1 for 8 in this match. Then they went to Caterina Bossetti, and I mean, she's not known for scoring. Sure, she was able to shore down the passing a little bit, but I don't think the passing was really the issue for Scandicci in this one. And what I saw when I was kind of scrubbing through it, Bossetti was 2 for 6, but damn, Cuneo looking really good early. Erica Pritchard 13 for 27, as I said, with 6 blocks. She had 19 points, was the MVP of this match. And Masa Pucelli, I don't know if I pronounced that right, of Slovenia, had another good match. She was 12 for 24 with a 50% efficiency. She also had 2 blocks and an ace. And then Binto Diop as well, 10 for 28 on the right side for Cuneo. So Cuneo putting the league on notice and making things a little bit messy there, as, I've really viewed the LVF in the past number of seasons of having the top 4 teams with, Novara, Scandicci, Conegliano, and Milano, of course. But so far, we've seen other teams like Chieri and now Cuneo, and of course Busto, who was finally able to get their first win of the season as well, all striking some fear into the hearts of the Elite Four. So, yeah, it's been really, really interesting to watch the beginning of this LVF season. Now, I did just talk about Busto, and Busto, oh man, this is an up and down team. And, it's been a little bit difficult. I think if we look to, who did Busto lose to in the second week? Oh yeah, they lost to Novara. that makes sense. Novara is one of the most solid teams, but they got reverse swept by Conegliano in week 1, got lost to Novara in week 2, and then went up 2-0 on Bergamo in week number 3, and it looked like it was going to be an absolute disaster. It looked like they were going to get reverse swept for 2 of their 3 matches at the beginning of the season, and they were down 14-11 in that 5th set when Josefina Bosa came to the rescue, and she was very good in this one. Led her team and the match with 19 points. Obosa was 15 for 48, also had 4 blocks in this one. Serving wasn't that great for Busto, and I think that is one of their biggest issues overall this year. Only 1 ace for 15 errors. Obosa, 5 errors on 8 attempts overall. That is really not good from the baseline. So if she can just shift that up a little bit, maybe not try to be so aggressive, and that will really open things up for this Busto team, because I think that they actually spread the ball around quite well. Valeria Batista came off the bench and was 10 for 24 with 2 blocks. She had 12 total points in this one. We saw Melanie Parra, maybe not as good earlier on. She was 8 for 26. And yeah, 13 blocks for Busto in this match, 14 overall for Bergamo. Of course, Setse Monteavo, not her best match either. 12 for 48 with a very, very low efficiency, under 10% efficiency, but she did have 4 blocks. But Kendall Kipp has been really good. Not so great in this match once again, 11 for 42. But Bergamo really throwing away a fantastic opportunity. They had a swing. Sese had a swing as well for match point. She made that error, and then it was 3 straight Josefina Bosa points to bring them back down 14-11 for Busto to really, Potato Smiles, you're right. For that last run, Batista was at the baseline, just making sure that ball came back. Obosa finished that ball away too, and it was really impressive to watch Busto. And I think they can be a little bit dangerous. Once Melanie Parra can maybe figure some things out, you've got Alessia Gennari, who's really good in serve receive. And I mean, I don't know why teams have been targeting her as much. They targeted her 34 times in this match, and she's passing 59% positive. I think there's some positive things here. And, Tommy and I had a discussion about this team early on in the year in terms of, are you going to go with Jennifer Baldini, who is the captain and has set this team for a while, or do you go with Japanese national team setter Nanami Seki? And they decided to opted for Seki in this match, and they got the W. So just pointing that out there for Busto. One of the other matches that I wanted to touch on, I thought this one was going to be really good and ended up being not as good as I wanted, mostly because Novara is just so damn good. They absolutely handled Chieri in what was a really entertaining match through 2 sets, 25-23, 26-24, 25-20. And Novara just spreads that offense like peanut butter. So well done out there by Carlotta Cambi, who, there's 2 setters, in my opinion, who kind of moved up with the Oro shift, and that's Bosio and Cambi. And I thought Cambi has been outstanding. 4 of her tackers in double digits for this one. Alsmeyer ended up with 14. Mayu Ishikawa with 12. Taylor Mims, who got the start on the right side because Tolek went down with an injury, really bounced back from what was an iffy game in week number 2. She had 12 as well. And then Amber Ejiri, who continues to be so impressive. So impressive for this Novara team. She was 9 for 13 down the middle with 2 blocks. And Giulia Leonardi, just an outstanding match at libero as well. And Novara is just so good at staying calm. Block. They don't block super well. Milano is the best blocking team in the world, but they sit outside of the lanes really well and just kind of strap it on. They play really, really good defense. On the Chieri side of things, I do really still like this team. Annette Nemeth is fantastic. She was 15 for 37, didn't have the highest efficiency, but was still all right. Stella Nervini, who I was really excited to watch them play this season, and so far her play has exceeded my expectations, really. I know some people in the Discord who are kind of saying, she can't be that good. She was still decent in this one with 14 points. Laura Kunzler as well with 10, but I don't think this one is as much of a reflection on Chieri as much as it is as Novara is really, really good. And then this is the other one that I wanted to talk about. Of course, Conegliano gets the 3-dong over Consolini or San Giovanni. If you want Isabel Hawk with 15 points, 15 for 29. Zhu Ting was better in this match. She was 13 for 24, but of course you're playing a relegation race team, and Nika Dalderup 10 for 21 with Fatoumata Silla, who only came off the bench in that third set, was 4 for 7 overall in attacking. So once again, we are going to continue watching her. Moving on to match day 4, which is just this past Sunday. There is, of course, a few other matches that I wanted to talk about. We've been talking about Novara, and this is the first time that they really had a scare, as Bergamo really bounced back, but it wasn't on the back of Sisse in this one. It was all on Kendall Kipp. Kendall Kipp, 20 for 40 in attack with a block and an ace. She was really good. Ultimately, it was Novara who just outlasted Bergamo. 25-17 Novara. Bergamo won sets 2 and 3, 25-19, 25-18. Novara came back, not dominated, but handled set 4 very nicely. And then it was all Novara in set number 5, 25-21 in set 4, and then 15-7. They jumped out to an early 5-1 lead and then never really looked back. It was like 12-4 at one point, as you can see there as well. So Novara, really still the only undefeated team in Italy. Of course, in the standings, it is going to be Novara and Conegliano. But I said in my preview with Tommy Blizzard that I was really going to be looking forward to what this team could do. And, once again, that was the case. They just spread that offense so well. Alsmeyer with 19, 18 for Britt Herbots, Maya Ishikawa. They went with a 3 because Taylor Mims not so great on this one. She's kind of been up and down. 2 for 12 in attacking. So they went with that 3 outside hitter system. Maya also had 11 points, and Giudi continues to dominate. 4 blocks down the middle. She had 11 points. And Sarah Bonifacio as well. When they go with that 3 outside hitter system, they just have the ability to open up their offense quite a bit. And as you can see, it really does well down the middle. Bonifacio, 8 for 18. Giudi, 6 for 15. So maybe not the best efficiency from both of those middles, but you're still giving your middles a lot of swings, which is really nice to see from Novara. They've got some big matches coming up. We'll talk about that in just a second. And then Scandici continuing to look a little sketchy here, going to 5 with Firenze, winning the first 25-20. Then it was Firenze in sets 2 and 3, 25-23, 25-18. Scandici comes back nicely, 25-16, and then they finish it off 15-9. And it wasn't about the secondary scoring this time. Thank goodness for Scandici, as Avery Skinner, 20 for 47 offensively, only made 3 unforced errors. And then Antropova, much of the same out there. She was 23 for 45. Also had 3 aces, as did Camilla Weitzel, who Weitzel was unreal, 9 for 16 with 4 blocks as well. Emma Graziani also had 4 blocks for Scandici in this one. And Julian Nolima out of the Netherlands, 21 for 56 with 4 blocks in this match. Firenze showing a little bit of life. A team that was in the relegation race last year has proved that they've maybe upgraded a little bit. And Vanya Bukilic, maybe not as good, but still, like, after what I saw in the VNL, I'm impressed that she's been able to put these kind of numbers up in the Lega Volley Femminile. And Yeah, Luke D. Agility is not going to be playing all year long for this Novara team. And I mean, if you're Agility's agent and like if you're Novara, Indy Bayerns, in my opinion, is a huge downgrade from Agility. And I know Agility wants to go play in League One, but Agility also wants to go to the Olympics. And I think the best thing for the girls who want to go for the Olympics or the American team is actually to play overseas. But that is just my own opinion. Any other results throughout this week? Chieri 3-donged Busto. Cuneo continued their winning ways with a 3-1 win over Monviso, formerly Pinerolo. Scandici got a win over Consolini. Macerata actually got a win over Perugia. I'm just going to check here on the Chieri versus Busto match because I didn't watch this match at all, which is surprising because I do really like both of these teams. However, there's just too much volleyball for me to watch in this one. Looks like 16 points for Kunzler, 14 for Nervini, 14 for Nemeth, and then 14 for Melanie Para and 12 for Josephine Abosa, on the Busto side of the net. They continued with Seki out there. So they, once again, who did they play in 5? So yeah, it's still Alessia Gennari, but Gennari really struggling to score out there, 4 for 16 in this match, with Valeri Batista going 2 for 8 with negative efficiency in this one. So Busto, I do like them, but they do have quite a few answers to give us. Now, just looking at these standings right now in the LVF, Novara sitting in that first place with 11 points out of a possible 12. They're a perfect 4-0 so far. Chieri, Cuneo, Scandici all sitting at 3-1 with 8 points. Imoco Conegliano, of course, also with 8 points, is at 3-0. Milano at 2-1 with 7 points. And I don't know, that like it to me seems to me that Valafolia was kind of that 6th place team last year. I do think that they lost quite a bit by losing Simone Lee. They've dropped down, but it is going to be very interesting because I think even Busto down here at 1-3, they just haven't had the luck of the draw. They've just been playing top teams, right? So far, they've had to play Conegliano, Novara. They got the win over Bergamo, of course, who was another playoff team last year, and then Chieri. So Busto's had a terrible start to the season just because of the people that they've had to play. Once they start playing those lower level teams, it's going to be interesting. But Macerata, Perugia, Monviso, Consolini, maybe they're going to get a win at some point. We'll see. But overall, it's been a very interesting start to the Lega Volley Femminile season. Now, there is a couple of matches tomorrow on Wednesday. You've got Monviso taking on Conegliano at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and then Scandici against Milano. That one is going to be a really interesting match. I have a meeting to go to early tomorrow morning, but I will be rushing home to check that one out. Let's make sure that we're just here on A1 because we don't need to see A2 scores. And then we've got a full weekend of volleyball as well this weekend. A couple of big matches on Saturday. Actually, I would the way Cuneo's playing, I don't know if that's a big match against Perugia. That just provides a little bit of opportunity for them to keep going. But Chieri against Bergamo, I think, is going to be really fun. That's kind of 2 mid-table playoff teams. Chieri wants to prove that they're rear, and Bergamo has kind of been struggling this year. I want to see them go out against Chieri. But then Novara against Conegliano is going to be really fun. And actually, Dado is in the chat, and Dado's going to join me for a live watch along for that one. So if you guys want to come join us for some good chats and watching, I mean, we can watch Chieri and Bergamo too. I'll have both screens up. But yeah, Novara and Conegliano. Is that the one we wanted to watch? Yeah, right. That's the one we want to watch, right? Dado is Novara against Conegliano. I think that one is going to be number 1 against number 2. And before this weekend, I would have told you that Conegliano was going to get this one 3-0 or 3-1. But I think Novara looks way more solid this year than Conegliano does. So, and it's going to be a tough week for them because they have that extra game in the middle as well. So, yeah, that's weird how this week is working out for these teams. But that's just the way she goes. And then on Sunday, we'll have a few other big matches. Scandici gets to play Consolini, so maybe they can get a little bit more momentum there. Busto is going to be taking on Valafolia, which I think is a great opportunity for Busto to get a nice win, maybe get closer to 500. Florence is going to be taking on Monviso, and Milano will be taking on Macerata. So that is your update on the Lega Volley Femminili. Once again, join me and Dado on Saturday. It's going to be fun. Now, moving on, I'm just going to touch really quickly on the Sultanlar Ligi because there really wasn't anything big that happened this weekend, and I really didn't watch any of these matches. So I don't want to sit here and talk about what happened in matches that I didn't watch at all, but nothing all that surprising. Zahabashi got a 3-0 win over Ilkbank. Vakifbank got a 3-0 win over Besiktas. Galatasaray had a 3-0 win over Kozheboru. Of course, Kozheboru is actually a pretty good team, so for Gala to go out there and win 25-16, 25-14, and then 30-28 is a really nice win for them. Fenerbahce taking down THY, just demolishing them 15, 16, and 12. Göztepe also with the 3-dong. It was just a slate of 3-dongs this weekend. 25-21, 25-23, 25-3, and 19. Zarenspor also got a 3-dong against the team that I can't pronounce, and I apologize. Jem taught me how to say this team's name when I did my preview with him, and I still can't figure it out. Zarenspor 15, 15, and 16. And then Nulufer still with, RS Cargo is a team that I rate pretty high. Jem also thought that they were going to be going to the playoffs. And Nilüfer also comes out on top on them with a 3-2 win. And then earlier today, Galatasaray also with another easy win, 12-16-16 over Ilkbank. As you'll see here, the standings: Galatasaray, Zahabashi, Vakifbank, Fenerbahce, and Nilüfer are your 5 undefeated teams. And we'll keep on touching on what happens for them this season. And I'm just going to keep it in the family here as I jump over to the men's side, and we're going to talk about the. It was interesting because you had both the Super Cup going on in Turkey for the men this past week, but you also have the Turkish Cup going on the past 2 days. Now, the Super Cup is just played from the top 2 teams, and it was there was the first set, and then there was the rest of the sets in this one. And Ziraat Bank are your 2025 Super Cup or Champions Cup winners. And this Ziraat Bank team is good. They are very, very good in this match. Fenerbahce won the first set 25-19. Then it was all Ziraat Bank, 25-22, 25-18, 25-17. They just got better and better as this game went on. And after absolutely dominating Japan over the past or last year, Namir Abdelaziz comes back to Turkey to prove that he is still the best left opposite in the world. 29 for 45. He had 34 points a block and 4 aces. Ziraat Bank was incredible from the baseline. 10 aces in this one, 10 blocks as well. 3 for Thomas Fornal, 4 for Emery Savas. And man, this Ziraat Bank team is really, really good. They don't necessarily have the depth that I would like to see from a team that is going to be, in the Champions League and playing in the Turkish Cup and playing in the Turkish League. But, on the outside, you have Trevor Klevno and Thomas Fornal, which in my opinion is the smoothest outside duo in the world. Talk about two guys who can pass the ball well and also score. On the right side, you have Namir Abdelaziz. They have Berke Baraktar, who is the libero for Turkey as well as the lib position. So passing is really dialed in for this Ziraat Bank team. And then you have Bediran Bulbul and Emre Savas, who are two Turkish national team middles down the middle. And Yeni Pazar is their setter. So Murat Yeni Pazar, who is the setter for the Turkish national team, is setting this team. So it was really just, especially once they dialed down their serve receive in sets 2 to 3, it was absolutely game over for Fenerbahce. And Fenerbahce, on the other hand, really struggling to score. Adis Lugumcia led the team with 12. Not a great return to his homeland of Turkey. 9 for 33, hitting a 27% with a really low efficiency. He did have 3 blocks, though. Bart Chenenyeze was all right as well. He was 5 for 7 with 2 blocks. Mert Matic, not great offensively, 2 for 8, but did have 4 blocks. Mirza Lugumcia ended up coming off the bench. And Irvin Ingapeth, playing his second season now for Fenerbahce, was 8 for 25 and 10 points. But, you know, I really wanted to see this team go with Julio Gomez at the setter, but instead they went with Fabio Driska. I don't like to me, it's obviously not a foreigner issue because you have 2 foreigners as your setters, but I know that Fenerbahce is a Champions League team. Yeah, Fenerbahce is going to be a Champions League team this year. And yeah, this was just an absolute domination for Ziraat Bank. And, you know, Engapeth is still in his World Championships shape, let's say. Round is a shape, okay? So I want to see if Fenerbahce can actually really go after Ziraat Bank this year. Now, moving on from this match, once again, congratulations to Ziraat Bank for winning this match. You also have the Turkish Cup that is starting. So the way the Turkish Cup works, you have the top 4 teams from last year who now Alanya Belediyespor isn't the 4th place team last year. It was actually Arkas Izmir, but Arkas Izmir has opted to drop out of the top league and just become more of a development club and just going to be playing in the lower league. So they got to move up. But there is a team this year who is going to be playing in the Champions League, a team that we know well, Halkbank Ankara, who now the way this works is all of the lower teams, there's 3 groups of the lower teams that will be competing to get into the quarterfinals. And you'll see here that Halkbank ended up losing to IBB Sport Kulübü in their match today, lost 3-0 to them. And because it's a pool of 3 and Sirze has dropped out due to financial reasons, it was basically just a 1-match game between them and IBB Spor. And Halkbank, from what I'm being told from our Turkish people, I don't know this 100% for a fact, will not be moving on. And Halkbank, once again, is a Champions League team. And Halkbank has, this is an all-star studded roster. They started Leal and Merek Shotala. They also have Svetsan Sokolov, who did not appear in this match. Matej Kaczynski came off the bench to play in this match as well. They started Hamza Yigit on the left side, and he was not good. 0 for 4 in attacking. Matej Kaczynski was all right, 3 for 7, finished the point of the day with 3 points. Leal, 14 for 32 with a 16% efficiency, just not good enough. Shotala, the only good one out there, 14 for 24. And Aussie Halkbank is in the Champions League this year. They didn't make the finals last year, and I'm pretty sure they finished 9th. But 3 teams on the men's side got to buy their way into the Champions League essentially, and it ended up being Resovia, which we respect, Montpellier, which kind of questionable. I thought it was going to go to like a Piacenza, who finished fourth in the Superlega, and then Halkbank was that other team. And when you look at this roster, maybe on paper they're supposed to get it done, because like their outsides are Matej Kaczynski, Leal, and then also you have Brody Hofer. But man, this is just from bad to worse for this Halkbank team. They are already out of the Turkish Cup. And I won't go through the other matches because I don't really know anything about any of these other teams really, but still, that is really something impressive. But I do want to point out one player, and it's Denislav Badarov for IBB, and he was 22 for 36 with a 50% efficiency in this match, carrying his team, outscoring legends like Leal and a very good player like Marek Shotala, just absolutely carrying his team. Of course, his secondary scoring, shout out to the TRU GOAT, Brad Gunter, who had 11 points, was 10 for 20, continues to just chip away and be really, really good in Turkey. But Denislav Badarov, yes, another Bulgarian, another 22-year-old Bulgarian who came off the bench last year for Kota Zodina. And man, if you didn't have a reason to be stoked on Bulgarian volleyball before, this is just another case of why people should be really dialing in to Bulgarian volleyball, because they have got some really good youngsters, out there. So, as I said, Denislav Badarov, outstanding in this one with 26 points, leading his team to the quarterfinals of the Turkish Cup. All right, moving on now back to Italy, back to the men, where we had our first week of competition for the Lega Volley. And you know what? I'm sorry. I've been working on this damn preview, honestly, for days. I suck at editing video. And I'm trying to make it nice. Like, I'm trying to make it so that people are actually, it's not just me talking. That, you know, there's a little bit of production value in it. But it's just been going longer. I'm really hoping that I can get this video edited for tomorrow. That's my goal. If I don't have this video posted tomorrow, you guys can start chirping me, going after me in the Discord and in the chat here. But I do think you guys are going to like it. I worked pretty hard on it. But, you know, if you were to watch my preview, that there was two teams that I was a little suspect on, and that would be Verona and the moves that they made, and Milano with the moves that they made as well. And both of them looked pretty good in week number one. So we're just going to scoot through some of these results here. We don't need to talk about Perugia versus Monza just yet, although Monza was very impressive in the loss, better than I would have expected for sure. But Verona, oh, this offense is going to be good. This is going to be a really good offense. I definitely didn't talk about it enough in my preview. Nomori Keita picking up where he left off, just this time just on the left side. He was 21 for 37 in the match, hitting a 57% with 3 blocks overall. His passing overall wasn't terrible. 33% positive, 17% perfect, and now they do some interesting serve receive things over there in Verona. Especially with Nomori Keita out there on the left side, because they even have Darlin Souza in on the serve receive. Like, he was out there with 10 targets in serve receive. Actually passed pretty good. And you know what, Ozzy, you are right. I kind of a little bit regret a bit of my preview, but it's already recorded now, and I can't run away from it, because Micah Christensen is a really good runner. He's a very athletic setter, and his ability to get the ball really opens things up for Verona, and he's setting that ball pin to pin. The Rock Mozic, not so great in this one, 8 for 16. They ended up bringing Francesco Sani, who I thought was very solid, acceptance serve receive, got aced 3 times on 7 targets, but was 8 for 4 attacking. And Verona really good from the baseline too, 8 for 18. And now, as bad as I thought that Verona was going to be from the baseline, in serve receive, Piacenza was worse. Piacenza only 16% perfect, only 32% positive. That means they're spending 2/3 of this game in serve receive, out of system, which is rough, which is really, really rough for this team. Alessandro Bovalenta was really good, 18 for 28 with one unforced error, but to get blocked 4 times, that was once again because he's just getting set high balls all day long. Jose Miguel Gutierrez was 14 for 26 with 14 points. Robert Landy Simone with an absolutely Landy alert. The OG Landy, 9 for 10 in attacking. No blocks, but 7 aces. 7 aces. He was just toying, absolutely toying with Verona's serve receive, going hard to the seam, pulling them short, moving them all around. And Ozzy, exactly. Domenico Pace, who is the best receiver from the Lega Volley last year, ended up being not so great, right? He ended up being 31% positive and 13% perfect on 32 targets. And, he was the best receiver in the league last year for Cisterna, and that's really not a good start here for this Piacenza team. And I mean, they did look really good in that second set. Robert Landy was unreal from the baseline in the second set, really set the tone, but they are really young on the outsides. They are really young on the outsides with Bergman and Gutierrez and Bovalenta. Bovalenta was still very, very good, but you can still, he's got a lot to grow here. This is a guy who's going to be able to grow quite a bit. And it's going to be interesting to see now that he's the bona fide number 1 starter, that how he's going to be able to grow into this team. But I'm really interested to see how they can get by without Efe Mandaracha, because once they can bring Mandaracha back, then that's really going to add another option, and they don't have to have Gutierrez and Bergman out there at the same time. But one thing that really impressed me in this match, 9 for 10 for Robert Landy Simone, that the Porro Simone connection reminded me a little bit of the Checo and Robert Landy, because Porro is such a good setter and has that ability to fire that ball, especially on the 31. Anytime Porro's coming off the net, Robert Landy is just moving off of him, and Simone is just moving off of him, and provides that perfect window. And it's not like Brizal just kind of loops it in sometimes, whereas Porro really fires it at Robert Landy, and he was carving away. He's looking really, really good. And I'm really interested to see that that setter middle connection really develop over the course of this season. And, as I've once again talked about in my fucking preview that isn't even out yet, this is a future roster for Piacenza. The majority of this roster, is under the age of 25, right? Other than the middles with Galassi and Robert Landy, you've got a bunch of guys who are under the age of 25. But the majority of this team is also signed on through to 2028. 2-year contracts are rare enough in volleyball. But now it's you've got a team of 3-year contracts. So I'm really interested to see how this Piacenza team grows. But these are 2 teams that I'm going to really keep my eyes on, because once again, everyone is expecting, we have an Elite 3 this year in the Lega Volley. Everyone is expecting Verona to be that 4th place team. And now remember, they did finish in 4th place last season. I don't know. I'm still wary of this Verona team, because they looked. I won't be wary until they win a playoff series. That's what I want to see from this Verona team. So they can be as good as they want throughout the regular season, but I just want to see them win a playoff series. But I was pretty encouraged with what I saw here in match number 1 from them. All right, moving on now to what was, I'm not going to call this an entertaining 5-setter, but it was a 5-setter between Milano and Modena. Now, Milano having a couple of injuries in this one. No Cachopa and no Seppi-Rotti. They collided with each other in the preseason. It sounds like Rotti is going to be out for a while with a shoulder injury. I'm not entirely sure what was up with Cachopa. Now, he was on the roster for this one, but instead they decided to give their first ever start to Leonardo Barbanti. And after the first set, Monza looked really bad in the first set, but after the first set, Milano looked really bad in the first set, but after the first set, they started to pick it up, started to pick it up, and then they ended up pulling off the reverse sweep, right? Modena took first set 25-23, second set 25-17, and it was 25-22, 37-35 going the distance, and then 15-11 in the fifth. Ferry Regers, of course, picking up where he left off with 28 points in this one. He was 23 for 47. Tatsunori Otsuka as well getting the start without Seppe Rotti out there. And he was 11 for 25. And then Francesco Riccine, 14 for 37. And you know what? Not bad efficiency either. Got blocked 5 times, but didn't make any unforced errors. And the passing on Milano's side, a lot better than I was expecting. So once again, my preview of this team, not as good. And then I think the big difference between these two teams is that Milano has Regers. Milano has the ability to just chuck that ball up to the right side, and Regers knows how to score, right? Right now, for me, the 3 best opposites in the world are Namir, Regers, and Indra, in that order. And Regers has proved time and time again that he can score. And I mean, he was the second best attacker in this league last year. And even though Modena has the ability to move the ball around and they hit really, really well as a team, 54%, they just lacked that go-to guy. They lacked that number one option that when you know that ball is going to. Now, you'd expect it to be Paul Buchkeger. He was all right, 13 for 22, but Modena and Amir Tsizi-Oualou, who started his first match in the Lega volley, they were really left side heavy. 22 for 41 for Vlad Daviskiba, and then 18 for 36, for Luca Porro. And for me, Modena just needs to vary that offense a little bit. They just need to move things around a little bit better, but I think that's just going to become part of the progress that we're going to need to see here from Amir Tsizi-Oualou. Also, the serving in this game, to me, what it came down to. On the Milano side, 10 aces for 16 errors. That is a really good efficiency. That's a really good ratio that I think any coach is going to take, especially in the Lega volley. On the Modena side, though, ooh, ouch, this one hurt. 5 aces for 32 errors. 32 errors. And it doesn't matter how good your offense is, and it doesn't matter how good your blocking is. If you're going to make 32 errors from the baseline, you're just giving the other team 32 points. And now I know that there's been studies and all of this shit about, hey, missed serves actually don't matter that much. But I think, especially like if you're putting up 32 errors on the other team, you're only acing them 5 times, and the other team is passing 48% positive and 26% perfect, you are not serving hard enough to put the pressure on this team. Okay? Buchkeger, 6 errors. Daviskiba, Tsizi-Oualou, Sanguinetti, all with 5 errors for serving. Luca Porro with 4 as well. So once Modena can figure out their serving woes, and once they can figure out how to just keep the fucking ball in the court, I think this is going to be a pretty good team. But once again, these are 2 teams that made moves for the future. You know, there's 3 teams, all those 3 teams in the mid-table with Modena, Piacenza, and Milano, all made moves to the future, all brought in youth players who they're going to work with and develop over the next few years. So I think it's going to be really interesting to watch all of these teams play each other. Another interesting one, TGE took on Lube Civitanova, and I mean, hey, there was a lot of questions if Alex Nikolov was actually going to start this one, and he was picked up where he left off from the World Championships. 30 points, 25 for 38 in attacking, and Lube looks good early. Lube looks good early. They got that 3 outside hitter system going on. Lepke had 13. He was 11 for 20. Mattia Botolo had 11. He was 7 for 16. And while Lube did make a lot of serving errors with 28, they also got 12 aces. And to me, if you're around 1 ace to maybe 2.5 to 3-ish errors, that's all right. And that's exactly what we're seeing from Lube here in this match. And, this is going to be a really fun team to watch. What can I say? I know it's not a secret. If you guys have listened to me for a while, it's not that I'm not the biggest fan of Adis Lagumdje. I just thought he was a little one-dimensional. And this team has so many dimensions with the way that they play. So I'm really going to be interested to watch how Lube progresses throughout the season. Wout here was 3 for 3 as well with only 4 points, but still I think he was good. Giovanni Gargiulo, 7 for 10 in attack with 3 blocks as well. This is a really good match to watch. Bonifante, I'm waiting to see how good he can be in his second year, and he was very good in this match. On the Grota side, this is still a team that we're seeing get into things, and it was interesting because they ended up starting, Georgi Tatarov on the left side. They kind of went with a 3 outside hitter system. Tatarov wasn't that great. He was 3 for 12. They have Dusan Petkovic as their second libero. So it seems like Petkovic was kind of figured things out. But Amir Golzadeh out of Iran, and now he is a former U21 World Championship MVP. He's long. He's from Iran. He was the best attacker and best scorer, and I think the MVP of the Slovenian league last year. He was 9 for 18 off the bench. So he's going to be a player to watch as maybe one of the best newcomers in the league this year. But TGE just not really standing up that well against Lube. And they're tough serving. Got aced 14 times and only passed 30% positive and 17% perfect. So they're going to be another team to see, how can they improve throughout the year in that relegation race. But also Giulio Magalini leading this team in scoring 11 for 20 with a 55% efficiency. Maybe not passing the best at 22% and 11% perfect on 27 targets. He also got aced 7 times, but I still think that there's some possibilities here. There was a bit of a rumbling there of TGE at some point after they won that second set, and then Lube really shut things down in the third. Or sorry, after they won the third set, Lube really shut things down. Moving on, Padova won one of the early battles of the relegation race, and this one was not a fun match to watch. It was pretty ugly all the way around. Mattia Orioli and Davide Gardini, both with 14 points. They're going to have to be really good. Vjeko Masolovic led the team with 22. He was 15 for 30 with 5 blocks and 2 aces. And Cuneo in their first match back in Lega Volley. You know what? I just thought they kind of lost the handle down the stretch. I thought it was theirs for the taking. Sedlacek was all right. 20 for 37 for 21 points. Nathan Farral, the youngster out of France. Now, he did make 7 unforced errors. 7 of the entire 9 for this team. But I actually kind of liked him. I think Farral is going to really be able to settle in this league, and I think he can play at this level. He was 17 for 35 in attack. And, Michele Baranovic really just spread out that offense really, really nicely between his 3 outsides. And then you also had Ivan Zaitsev going 15 for 28 on the outside as well. But that is going to be an interesting race between these two teams, because I think they're going to be the two teams, along with maybe Cisterna, who are going to be in the heat of the relegation battle. And speaking of Cisterna, they got absolutely donged today by Trentino. It was all Trentino all day, and Trentino has what I think is going to be the best scoring duo in this league. I am going to point you to to the Unicorn, who was 12 for 12 in attack today. Perfect 100%. He had a block and 2 aces. He also passed 71% perfect 71% positive and 29% perfect on 14 targets in this match. And then you also had Théophile, who was 13 for 20 in attack, with hitting a 70 or 65%. So really just spreading that offense around quite a bit. Not that much pressure going on Jordi Ramon. And now remember, Lavia got injured. His hand got crushed by a plate in the gym getting ready for the World Championships. He will be out for what is likely to be most of the season. Actually, Trentino is actually suing the FIPAV, the Italian Federation, because they essentially lost him for the season. And so I think they're suing him for like essentially what would be his salary, which there is precedent for this, but we'll have to see how it happens. And you know what? I actually agree with you, Dado. I also want to see Simon Torvi in there. I think he's going to be a really, I think Simon Torvi is arguably one of the best middle prospects in the world right now. I think he's a guy that can dominate at the net, both offensively and in the block. He's really good from the baseline. And, last year we saw with Lundberg that he makes timely plays. He makes plays at really important moments. And I think that's going to be really important down the stretch for this team. They did go with Bartha Beautiful, as we're used to seeing. And I mean, he did play for this team last year. He does have that experience factor, but I think that competition there for the M2 spot between Bartha and Torvi is eventually going to go to Torvi, because Torvi is just an absolute hulk of a man. And they're going to need his blocking, especially down the stretch, because they did lost one of their best blockers, 2 of their best blockers, in Jan Kozamernik and in Daniele Lavia. And blocking is a big part of the identity for this Trentino team. And finally, to wrap up week 1 here of the Lega Volley, there was a pretty entertaining match for Monza versus Perugia. And now, once again, Monza was a single set away from relegation last year after going to the Scudetto finals the year before. But that's volleyball, where we don't actually have, a proper transfer window. Some people were making the jokes today that, hey, the PlusLiga has started, which means that the transfer season for next season has started in the PlusLiga as well. But Monza looking not bad, getting a set win over Perugia. Now, it was the first set, but still not too bad there for Monza. 14 points for Christian Padar, the Hungarian on the right side. Now, he's going to have some big shoes to fill. I know some people aren't the biggest fans of Arthur Schwartz. I don't know why. He's an absolute sweetheart, an absolute beauty, and scored over 300 points for this team, carried them offensively. So Christian Padar, who played in Japan last year and then also has been playing in like Qatar and stuff like that, is really going to have to prove that he can play at this level. He was 12 for 24. Luca Martilla was 12 for 22. And did we see Roars in this match? No, Roars not even on the roster in this one. So if people can tell me where they thought Roars was, that would be very interesting, because instead you had a pair of Bulgarians with Martin Atanasov starting the match in the first couple of sets. He was 6 for 12 in attack, got 7 points. And then Jasmin Valechko, another fucking Bulgarian. Honestly, what did you guys do from 2003 to 2006? Like, can we start looking at the doping situation there in Bulgaria? Because they have been absolutely incredible. Like, this is the fourth and maybe fifth Bulgarians that we've talked about today. What's going on? I'm so scared of this country. They honestly, hats off. From what I've been learning, it sounds like Nikolov Sr. has really been pulling some strings to get things going. And yeah, the Bulgarians are crazy. So we'll keep watch. It looks like Roars had back pains before the match and was not on the roster. So once they can get Roars back out there, I think that's just going to be a really big advantage for Monza. I still want to see Roars just have a little bit more attitude. he just seems like a pretty boy is not fair, because it's like, he is a good looking guy. Like, I won't get me wrong, but I got to see him in the VNL this year, and it was just like, I want to see him get mad. I want to see him get frustrated and say, just like, give me the fucking ball and go for it. And that's what I think that maybe was lacking from his play in Germany for me any of this year. But he has all of the tools. So if he can just add that little bit of attitude, I think he's going to be great. But Perugia started their year not so great by losing that first set, but then they were off to the races on that. Y'all were getting pretty down on Yuki Ishikawa in the chat. And then I went and checked the stats. He was 17 for 22 with a 77% efficiency. He had the most targets on this team. He passed over 33% of the balls with a 63% positive rating. Only 17% perfect, but still. Like, I don't know what more you want from this man, okay? And I know some people were maybe, it was just picking up off of what happened last season for Perugia and maybe what happened during national team season, but give the man a rest, okay? 77% efficiency. Just let him be a little bit. And of course, Gianelli just spreading that offense really, really nicely. Vasim Bentara, 19 points. As I mentioned, Ishikawa with 18. And then Ole Plotnitsky with 14. So the outside machine that is Perugia continues to whir. They hit 61% of his team and also had 10 blocks in just 4 sets. So really, really good. Russo didn't even get the start. They went with Sebastian Solé and Augustin Lozère. So Perugia, is this the year for Perugia for them to capture the Infinity Gauntlet, right? They did win the Champions League, so they're going to be in Club World Championships. That is going to be a really good team to watch, but I think this may be the best Perugia team we've seen so far. This roster might be the best Perugia roster we've seen so far, so we will keep watching that, okay? All right, moving on to Italy. We're going to wrap things up here because Poland has started, but not quite so far. We've only seen 3 matches. One yesterday where Gdansk played host to Barkom Lviv. And, Gdansk started a little sketchily. It was the first match for Joe Vorsley at the head of the Gdansk offense. And it's funny because, after about 4 or 5 years of Lucas Kampa has now moved on to play for Lviv. And at first, looks like Kampa was going to get the last laugh, with Lviv winning that first set. And then just a bit of a back and forth match. But eventually, Gdansk was able to settle things down. Tobias Brand, who was really good for Warszawa this year, led Gdansk in this one. He was 19 for 34. He got 3 blocks and 2 aces to lead his team with 24 points. Alexei Nasevich was their second best scorer with 21 points, and it's good to see him now as the bona fide number 1 starter. And Piotr Orchik, who was their top scorer last year, 15 for 29 with 17 points. He also had 2 aces for Gdansk. And then Vasil Tupci led the show for Lviv on the other side. Same thing with Ilya Kovalov. And now Lorenzo Pope getting the start, the Australian out there with 18 points, 12 for 28. And, if you listen to my preview with Adanos last week, you'll know that I'm very, very high on this Gdansk team. I do think that they're a playoff team, so love to see that they got their first win of the year. And of course, big shout out to Joe Vorsley, set his team to a 54% with a 37% efficiency. Not too shabby in his first match. Now, a couple of other matches that went on that I did not watch, so we'll just go over them really quickly. Varsovia did start off slow. It's been a thing this year that all these top teams are losing their first sets of the season and coming back nicely. Varsovia took down Suwałki 3-1, losing the first set 25-17, then taking the next 3 16-17 and 18. We'll go down here and check for Resovia. Arthur Schalpuk leading the way, 21 for 29. Look at those numbers there, hitting a 72% with a 69% efficiency. Just absolutely dominating at the net. Karol Butrin moving over to Resovia this year as well. He was 10 for 26 for 16 points. Then Danny Demyanenko, 6 for 13 down the middle with 5 blocks and 6 touches for 11 net plays in this one. Love to see him moving up. He played for Grota last year, and now his hard work is paying off, playing for one of the biggest teams in the PlusLiga this year. Interestingly enough, it looks like they went with Clement Chebul instead of Yacine Louetzi for this match. Chebul was all right, 8 for 17 for 9 points as well. So Resovia on the board, and then Warszawa, one of the top teams from last year, picking up a good 3-dong over the newcomers of Helm. Ben Nor's leading the way with 15. Kevin Tilley had 13. Linus Weber, who is now the number 1 option in Warszawa, with 10 as well. And then on the other side, shout out to Jay Blankino. Jay Blankino back in the PlusLiga. Remigus Kapitsa, with 11 points. Thomas Piotrowski with 9, and then Pavel Rushin with 12. And yes, Zatorsky is still recovering, but it doesn't matter because you have Eric Shoji out there. So Zatorsky was seen sparingly. He only got targeted twice, but I think you're going to play Eric Shoji. I think you're gonna start Eric Shoji. That's just the way it goes. So it all depends on the foreigner limit, how they want to be able to rock that. And that wraps things up for the PlusLiga now. PlusLiga fashion, they be playing matches all day this week, and I think from here things only get better. Tomorrow is going to be a really fun one in the PlusLiga. Olsztyn takes on JW. Olsztyn got Arthur Schwartz, and they're going to be another team that's going to be looking to get back into the playoffs. I'm not as high as them as I am on Gdansk, but still going to be a good one. JW taking a step back. They lost Fornal. They lost a lot of guys. It's still going to be decent. They got Kaczmarek. They got Nick Scherzian as well. But that one's going to be an interesting match as two teams kind of not fighting to stay relevant, but proving that they can be there. And then in the late match tomorrow, in the primetime match, the champions of Poland from last year, and really the two most surprising teams in Poland last year, Luke Lublin, going to be taking on Norwid Czestochowa, and Lublin, of course, surprised the entire world last year by coming out and winning the PlusLiga in what was only their third or fourth year in the league. And, you know, they kept the majority of their they kept their entire starting roster, basically, except for the left side. But, you know, you got 3 Canadians over there, so you know I love them. And then Norwid keeping the majority of their starting roster too, and bringing in Luciano De Cecco. So how De Cecco is going to work with guys like Patrick Indra and Mila Adebayopour, I'm going to be very, very interested to see how that goes. So that's going to be 2 really good ones. And then this weekend, you've got a couple of big ones on Saturday as well. Zawiercie going to be taking on Projekt Warszawa in a rematch of last year's semifinals. And then Lublin will be taking on Zaksa in the other Saturday match, with Skra taking on Olsztyn on Saturday as well. So there's going to be the 3 Saturday matches, and then there's going to be 3 Sunday matches as well, with JW taking on Suwałki, Resovia taking on Gdansk, which is a possible 2 playoff team matchup, and then Helm taking on Gorzów, which I'm just going to say this, that Adnos thinks Gorzów has a chance to make the playoffs this year. I'm not entirely so sure. They did bring back Chizoba, but still, I think this one's going to be interesting. Helm, I think, is going to have a really tough time picking up some wins in this league this year. So hopefully my guy Jay Blankenau can help them turn things around. All right, that is the update on the PlusLiga, and I'm just going to touch on the Bundesliga really quick because there was a pretty interesting result today. And Berlin went out and won the Super Cup earlier just this, I guess, last weekend, and then turned around and got absolutely three-donged by Friedrichshafen in this match. And Jake Haynes was the really only guy out there with a pulse, going 18 for 38. But Berlin just really struggling on the left side. And these are two guys who I've always like rated pretty hard. Moritz Reichart, really bad in this one, 3 for 16. And then Ruben Schott, even worse, 1 for 7. So they brought in Nolan Flexen in the third set, and I think Flexen's going to have to start for this team because he was 6 for 11. But Berlin, who has won the Bundesliga now for how many years in a row, getting absolutely handled by Friedrichshafen, who didn't even make the final of the Super Cup. They got donged by Lüneburg in the semifinals, but Friedrichshafen really spreading that offense around nicely to their outsides. Tim Peter with 15, Kyle Hobus as well, another American with 15. He was 14 for 26. And then Simon Kohn as well, 11 for 18, hitting a 61% for Friedrichshafen. So, you know, I think like good on for Friedrichshafen because once again, why am I blanking on his name? Sorry, Jackson Young, the Canadian, was supposed to be starting for Friedrichshafen this year, and at the last minute got picked up by Lublin. So the fact that they've been able to make that adjustment and start the season with a really good win is awesome. And just a quick touches on the other matches. Lüneburg did fight off Ludwigsburg, who is the team coming up from the second division. They did pull off the reverse sweep at the end of the day. Did Lüneburg. Ethan Champlin led the way. He came off the bench in the second, got 15 points. Of course, you know I'm a Champlin believer. I love the way he plays, love the mustache, love everything about it. And then you also had Valentin Eland, or Axel Enland, with 13, also coming off the bench. Chris Byam got subbed out, but had the third most points with 12. Jesse Elser coming in as well off the bench. He was offensively not the best, only 2 for 8, but passing, ooh-wee. Right? There's a reason that Benjo put him at the libero in that one season. 70% positive and 35% perfect. Lüneburg, of course, will once again be in the Champions League this year. And then actually, I do want to touch on one thing. Part of the reason that Ludwigsburg was so good was the play of newcomer Nayehiro Omene. He had 32 points in this one on the right side for Ludwigsburg. He was 29 for 55 with 2 blocks and an ace. And now Omene coming in from Princeton. So the guy with the brains, the guy from the Ivy League, who was actually quite good last year for Princeton, scored 387 points in 88 sets for the Tigers, going out there, dropping 32 in his first match as a pro. So got to give a big shout out to him. And then just rounding out, I'm going to be a big Duren fan this year because it is essentially a mini U Sports team. When you look at who they have on this roster, they are led by Jordan Canham in this one. Duren did get the 3-dong all over the Nets Hoppers. Jordan Canham with 15 in this one. He was 12 for 19 in attack. Oh, sorry. He was 12 for 19 in his attack. Also shout out to my guy Zach Hutchinson with 6 points for Duren. But man, this Duren team is basically a mini U Sports. As I mentioned, Hutchinson comes from Queens. Jordan Canham, Alberta. You have Robin Baghdadi down there, number 8, who I think is going to be a starter for this team. I think they just played with the lineup a little bit. Baghdadi played for Brandon, as did number 17, Philip Lauder, who is German but did play in U Sports. And then, isn't there one other guy? Maybe that's it. But still, 4 of those guys playing in U Sports this year. In the past, you love to see it. U Sports really fielding the talent for the Bundesliga. And then Petteri Tenisma, the middle from Finland, who impressed everyone, 6 for 7 offensively as well. So good little start there to the Bundesliga. I don't think we're going to touch on the Bundesliga kind of every week. I would touch on the French league more, but their stats are terrible. And I didn't really want to have to deal with what they were doing. And yeah, Lundberg does seem like an overall downgrade this season. They did lose quite a number of their guys. No more Xander Krasinski, no more Simon Torvey. But we'll see how they do in the long term. And I think that is actually going to do it for me for this episode of Volleyball Source Weekly. Hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know in the podcast section of the Discord about what you want me to talk about. And I think that's also something that you guys can do if you know that, especially in like the lesser leagues, like Lega Volley or the PlusLiga or the Lega Volley Femminile or the Superliga. I'm always going to be kind of paying attention to what's happening in those leagues. But if something big is happening in one of the lesser leagues, let me know, right? Some of you pay attention to those leagues way more than I do. And I would appreciate the shout out. But yeah, thank you everyone for paying attention and listening. Let me know what you guys think the name should be. I guess right now, Crossing the Line is the number one choice, but the Court Report and Volleyball Journal are both in there as well. So if you're watching this a little bit later, you can just write in the chat what you think the name should be. Okay. Hope you guys have a great day. Once again, my Lega Volley preview is coming tomorrow. I have promised. Fingers crossed. And also remember, tune in on Saturday. That'll be 2:30 p.m. Eastern time, 8:30 p.m. European time. Dado Volley is going to be joining me for the Dado Volley is going to be joining me for the watch along. And Benedict Bedlin, Hubner says it's the best team they ever had. So probably no. All right. Hey, if that's what Huber's saying, I'm a big fan of Stefan Hubner. I'm a Stefan Hubner stan. So if he's going to be out there and telling people that that this is the best team that Lundberg has ever had, I believe it. Okay. If that's what he's going to say, then I'm going to believe Hubner. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Have a great night. Have a great day. Have a great week. Go watch some volleyball. Bye. Oh, join the Discord too.